Welcome to the 6th episode of the Polecast show. I'm your host, Chloe, and this is Miss Arizona. She's an instructor and multidisciplinary performing artist who have been drop splitting and hair flicking since 2010. Known for her sensual style of performing, Arizona has won titles in pole dancing and showgirl competition over the years. Please welcome a special guest today, Arizona. Woo! Thank you so much for coming all the way. Really appreciate it. So, how have you been? How's everything? Just tell me about how you been.
Well, it's uni break, so it's great. Been catching up on a lot of my Netflix shows.
I love that.
Been doing a lot of self-training as well, so taking people's classes, so that's always fun. But in the process of moving houses, it's very stressful.
Oh, crazy. Moving houses is always super stressful.
The worst.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of people have been requesting and have been super excited to have you on this podcast, because I know for a fact that a lot of my girlfriends and pole dancing friends and stuff, they're obsessed with you. Everyone's oh my god, I love Arizona. She's super hot and she's super sexy. So I think this is a highly requested one.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel you're very mysterious in a sense. You have this mysterious super sexy persona. So super excited to get to know you today. So tell me about I guess your background and how you got into pole dancing, because I think everyone's curious.
Okay, well, I was actually working in corporate for 10 years. Just a regular Sally, just coming into work, and I thought I needed something a bit more risque because I was feeling pretty vanilla during that time. So out of a whim, I started pole dancing with a group of girlfriends, and over the years, I'm the last one standing. 10 years later.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So what got you into, I guess, pole dancing, and how did you find about it?
I don't know, for some reason I've always wanted to try pole dancing. So I've always been drawn to something a bit more taboo. So something that not regular people are doing. So I'm oh yeah, okay, been to the gym, done that, did some dancing, done that. So I thought pole dancing was kind of a little bit mysterious at the time, because it was very underground in 2010, as you can imagine, still in Australia. So yeah, and I was hooked after the first time. So.
Oh wow. How did you find out about it? Because I feel as you said, it was still underground. So it would have been really hard to figure out how to get into.
Definitely. So I was working in an accounting firm, and a bunch of my workmates already did classes at Bobby's Pole Studio. And so they would always come back from lunchtime going, oh, that was such a good class. Oh my God, look at my bruises. And I'm just what is this thing? I need to get amongst it. But I ended up doing classes at Suzy Q Pole Studio, which was in Parramatta, which is now Sydney Pole Parramatta, funnily enough, because I was closer to home. So,
okay. So an accountant doing pole dancing, I feel that's
Well, I wasn't an accountant, but I worked in an accounting firm.
Oh, okay. So you worked at an accounting firm and then you went pole dancing. I feel that's such a, I don't know, super, not taboo, but it's I have this other
secret life.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I feel it's so interesting, because I find that a lot of people that work in such environments, for some reason it's they have this other face, it's
yes.
Oh, I'm a doctor,
yes,
and I pole dance, or oh, I'm a lawyer and I pole dance. And I find it so intriguing that people have those different faces.
I mean, now as an instructor, you see all kinds of people from all walks of life, and being you don't know until you do an icebreaker and you go around a circle and be so what do you guys do outside of pole dancing? And they'd be I'm a nurse, or a school teacher, and it's just so interesting to me, because in the classroom everyone is just kind of working towards the same goal, or there for themselves, showing up for themselves, and then seeing that they have this other persona outside of pole dancing, to me is just so fascinating.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I feel that's also like what exactly you said is like a reflection of you as well, because I feel like outside of Pole, like although like I feel like we haven't really spoken much outside of like Pole, you're very like you're super sweet, and then when you go to Pole, or like when I see you perform, it's like you have like this badass like persona, and it's like I love seeing that like difference of you on stage versus like in real life.
Yeah, that's definitely a big contrast for me. I'm such a reclusive kind of person, so I'm a homebody. I don't actually go out partying. I'm so boring, but I love being boring. And then when I perform, I'm just this different person. I feel like that's my release, like creative release. And like, it's not so much an alter ego. I wouldn't call it an alter ego. It's more so like an outlet for me to kind of express a different side of me that I don't in my daily life.
And do you feel like your stage persona kind of like reflects your, not personality, but I guess like your preference in terms of, I don't know, maybe like music or like...
Definitely. So it's like a way for me to kind of express like the things that I'm into without actually expressing them in real life. I mean, sometimes like actually a lot of my themes that I go for are like pretty strong, intense themes that I guess are just inspired by, you know, movies or music or stuff that I'm into that I normally wouldn't be expressing in my day-to-day life. So that's kind of like I reserve that for the stage. You know?
Right. And like, how do you come up with these like themes and stuff like that?
It's very rare that they come up. This is why I only do competitions once a year. But when I do come up with one, it's like I go for gold. Like I actually think about it so much. It's not just like I want to pour blood on my chest, on my boobies on stage. It's not just that. Like I need to have an entire story. So like it could start from anything. You know, one time it would start from a song. I'd be listening to a song and be like, I can like totally do a show to this. And I have like an idea of what the show will be fully formed just listening to the song. Or sometimes I just want to use like a specific prop and be like, I need to have a cage on stage. And then like work everything around that. Or sometimes be like, I just want to have hectic makeup. And then I'll think about like an alien show so I can have like alien makeup. I don't know. It's like one thing and then I run with it and work everything else around it.
Okay. So if you don't know, Miss Arizona is a performer. And if you haven't seen a show, where have you been? She's like absolutely amazing. But aside from like performing on stage, what else do you do?
I also perform on weekends just in different bars and clubs and some burlesque shows as well. Just whatever. I do some fire eating, some chair dancing, some just lots of rolling around on the floor, I think. Some stuff where you're not rolling around on the floor. Some gigs where you're not allowed to open up your legs. You have to keep your legs closed, a bit more corporate. But all kinds. Keeps it interesting.
Yeah. So like I've seen you like fire breathe, and I think that one's amazing. But like, how did you come up with wanting to do that as well?
I guess coming back to wanting to do things that are a little bit more taboo. Now that I've been pole dancing for a long time, I'm just like, I need to up the ante with my performing. So I took lessons from a reputable fire instructor. And just went from there. I don't do it as often as I should, but technically you shouldn't be doing it as often as you should because it is quite dangerous. That's why I charge a lot of money for it.
Oh, right. Gosh, fire breathing sounds like really scary. I can't even think of doing it.
It's dangerous, but it's fun. It's very mesmerizing to watch. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You stand on stage with fire and everyone's like... It's amazing.
So when did you start that?
Not long ago, actually. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I started that. It's one of those things that you train for, but then you don't actually put it on stage for a while, because obviously there's so many elements that go into it. You know, you need to actually know about the fire safety. You need to have a person with you every time you're performing. You need to hone the skills to make it look like you're not thinking about all those things around fire. So it's taken me, maybe it's only been last couple of years that I've been performing on stage with fire, but I have been training it for a couple of years before that.
Oh, wow. So I guess like it's kind of the same as pole dancing. Like you can't just, you know, people think that you can just like, you know, hop on a pole and like just perform, but like you obviously have to like have a lot of like background knowledge, and like you have to have a lot of practice to be able to do that.
Yeah, you like I always say that if you're going to put anything out on stage, you need to be able to do it with your eyes closed first during training, because you know, when you're on stage, everything just changes. Like there are so many things out of your control. There's the nerves that come on board as well. And if you've got all those things playing a part, they definitely will affect your skill and the technique that you need to execute the skill. And so they need to be absolutely proficient 100% before you actually put them on stage.
Yeah, for sure. So with pole, when did you start performing? Since, you know, you said you've been dancing since 2010.
I didn't actually start teaching and performing till 3 years after starting pole dancing. It's so different to now. I know people progress a lot quicker now, seeing as we have so many different moves that just come up left, right and center so much quickly. Whereas back in the day, I remember when I started pole dancing, the most advanced move was a static V. And that was it. That is like, you've hit the roof there, you know?
Really?
Yeah, and so you wouldn't actually start doing outside leg hangs or inside leg hangs until you're in pre-advanced or like intermediate 3 or something like that. And so by the time you actually feel comfortable to compete and perform, it wouldn't be until years and years later of pole dancing. So yeah, 3 years after starting pole.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that. So with performing, so kind of like going back to that, were there like any like interesting moments or like any like highlights or like your favorite gig or something like that?
I think I did a lot of faking it till you make it when I first started. I've definitely gotten on stage before and they're like, Arizona, right? How long have you been performing? I'm like, oh yeah, 5 years. It was like my first show. But they didn't have to know that. I've trained for it. Fine. And then just, you know, just pretend that you've killed it and they're like, wow, you're so good. How come I haven't seen you before? It's because I haven't done it before. Yeah, so that was a lot of the start of my pole dancing and performing on stages. I wouldn't say there's anything particularly interesting. There is one time where I did a gig at a like packed nightclub during Mardi Gras, and they're like, yeah, you're going to be on stage, your DJ's going to be there, there's like plenty of space there for you. I got the late spot. It was like 2 a.m. performance. I'm like, how messy can it get? And I go there and the entire floor was drenched because everyone's been spilling their drinks all over the place. It was hot because it's Mardi Gras, you know, it was like Feb, March. And then they're like, oh yeah, sorry, the floor is too wet, so you're going to have to dance on a coffee table. And so they brought out a coffee table, like literally not even a coffee table, like a side table, like this small. I had to perform on my knees, just sitting on my heels and be like, for 10 minutes. It was amazing. It was the best gig I've ever done. Because I didn't come home with sore feet. I didn't have to do anything. I just did some hand dancing. It was great.
Oh my god, so he's just like voguing.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. Probably the smallest stage I've ever danced on.
I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
You can't go any smaller than that.
No, I don't think so.
That's interesting. Any mishaps or anything while you perform?
Always a mishap. I can't think of one specifically, but there's always one person stealing your freaking underwear or your bra and the crowd. And you walk around and you walk through and someone's got your like bottoms on their head and their like bra over their eyes and you're just like, that's where the hell they've been. Give me that. And they're like, just make another one. It's my souvenir. I'm like, no. That's Georgia Moon. That's expensive. So yeah, tip, if you're working at a club or anything like that, you have to pick up your own costume and put them all in a basket and get the hell out of there. So
Oh my god, I'm dead. That's so funny.
people are dumb.
Oh, I never thought of that before. Do people actually do that?
Yeah, so you have to I'm sure a lot of performers do this now. Like when you work in a park nightclub and you don't have like an assistant or anything, everyone has their little basket of where they dump their costume to when they're performing, so that when they leave, it's all just in one go. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, everyone's like really drunk, and I guess like, well, I mean, what are these people going to do anyways with these costumes?
I have no idea. Like, are you going to put in a frame? And it's like, that chick that performed at that nightclub that one night. It's like, do you even know my name? Like, you don't even know who I am. Like, you don't even know where I've been. Don't keep my underwear. God.
Like, I paid for these. Oh, that's hilarious. So I wonder if there's like, I mean, I guess there's going to be like a lot of people that like want to perform in the future, or like, you know, even like people that are getting into like pole dancing or like performing just in general. So what would you say to those people that are like just getting into like performing, and like what's like your advice you would give?
My advice is obviously train a lot for it. Always freestyle, because to me, looking confident on stage has everything to do with how well you practiced every move that you do on stage. So if you've freestyled a lot and you're so aware and you're so familiar of what your body is doing in every single position, nothing can go wrong on stage. You can stand there and still think about your next move, and you know you're going to look fab. You know you're going to look amazing because you've practiced it a million times. So I think to me it's just practicing as early as you can and doing a lot of freestyle as much as you can and recording yourself.
That's a really good point, because I feel like especially people that are just, you know, starting off with pole or like performing or whatever it is, when you start freestyling, it's like you just feel so awkward, and you feel like, you know, sometimes you just feel terrible because it's like, oh, I feel like I'm not, you know, doing well, like this is not for me. I'm just so awkward, like I'm not going to get any better.
I feel like everyone gets caught up in like looking or like aspiring to be looking like someone else they've seen on stage. And I think when you're trying so hard to do that, you kind of lose what looks natural to you. And so I think for me, the best performances that I watch are not those that do hectic tricks, although they do hectic tricks, but they execute them so well with so much confidence because they've done it a million times, you know? And to me, it's so much more enjoyable rather than sitting there going, is she going to make that trick? Is she going to make it? Oh, she didn't make it.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I feel like you need to kind of distract the audience with fake or real confidence, you know, whatever that may be for you. But you need to exude it on stage. Otherwise, people can feel that energy and feel that vibe from you.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I feel like what makes your performance so attractive is that like you've just got like this like glare, and like it's like you like exude this like confidence, and it's like I'm strutting my thing, and like it's like, you know what I mean? And I think that's what's so attractive, and that just makes the performance like just so, like you feel like you're in like Arizona's world. And I love that. Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, that's like that quiet confidence, like knowing that you've got your shit, comes from doing it so many times. And knowing that, oh yeah, I'm just taking a walk in the park. Like because of years of training of doing that exact same thing. So,
would you say that you've always kind of like had that confidence?
hell no. Okay, I actually have this, like, I had this conversation with a girl I was training with back in the old studio. It was pretty toxic because after my first competition, she was like, yeah, you have no stage presence. And then I entered a competition that same year, and one of the judges was like, you need to go to a strip club and learn from strippers and how much confidence they have on stage because you don't have that. And like it didn't break me, but it kind of pushed me to work on that.
Yeah.
So like every time I trained, I wasn't just training tricks. I was also training my face. I was training like the finessing of the movements. I was training, trying to get people's attention with my body language as opposed to big crazy tricks. And I feel like I've honed that skill so well from the start that it's become my priority, that now to me that's what comes naturally, and then the tricks and all that stuff comes secondary.
That is so interesting. I can't, like, well, seeing your performance now, I literally cannot believe that at all.
Sometimes constructive criticism is great for your pole journey.
Yeah, I mean, definitely is, but like, I feel like that's really like not nice.
No, it's not nice, but you know, sometimes that's what you need, a kick in the butt to get you in the right direction.
Oh, wow. So like, would you say that you're like a confident person in general?
Not 100%. I'm confident in things that I can do, obviously, but I'm always, what's the word? I always downplay a lot of stuff because I have this personality trait where I'm like, until I know I'm 100% really good at it, I'm not going to show anyone anything about it. So like, I'm really like, it's this quote that I really like that I read ages ago. It's like, ninjas don't talk about killing, ninjas just kill. So to me, that's like, it speaks a lot where you kind of like keep your achievements and the stuff that you're working hard for under wraps until they're kind of ready to be unveiled into the world. That's kind of like been my mantra.
Right. Oh, I love that. And I think that also comes down to, like, I'm not too sure, and I'm making obviously an assumption, but I feel like you're like a perfectionist.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why I don't compete as often because I'm just so critical of myself, and I'm just like, that could have been done better. And so at least if I only do that once a year, I only have to go through that once a year. Yeah.
That is so interesting because like I feel like every time I see your performance, like you just like everything's just so perfect. Like
thanks.
From like costume to like your stage presence to like your tricks, and like it's just, I don't know, it's so interesting because like every time I see you perform and I see you do all these like crazy tricks, but like I never actually see you like posting tricks.
Yeah. So that comes from like, like you said, perfectionism and being so critical of myself. I guess we're always our own worst critic. And so just to save myself from that heartache of just like the anxiety of posting something and being like, oh, that could have been better, oh, that could have been better, which I used to do a lot back in the day. I used to post something and be like, my leg needs to be straighter. And like, people don't need to know that. You know, like there are people there that just admire you for what you do. And some of those people are dreaming to have the moves that you just do, like with your eyes closed. So to me, I feel like that's undermining everybody else's kind of appreciation for their own skills. So I try to stay silent in that, but in a sense, I also try to show the things that I struggle with. I will have those posts when I'll be like, oh, I'm not having a great training day today, and like, I'm so glad I just had a bit of a dance today. Like, you know, just little things that I go through, but I wouldn't actually specifically talk about what was wrong in my performance or what was wrong in this and that. Like, no one needs to know that. They're there to admire you. They're there with you in your journey. They already love you. You know, you don't need to show them a negativity and all the stuff that's going on in your head. Although it does help sometimes because it makes you a bit more relatable and they know that you are human. But yeah, I feel like don't project your struggles so much that's all you ever see in someone's social media. It's demotivating for other people that are there to look up to you. So
yeah, that's really true. And I feel like with you, like I love looking at your posts, and I also love your social media presence because I feel like just watching you, like it just, I don't know, it just give me this confidence while doing nothing. And
nice.
Yeah, I'm just looking at you like, like I feel confident just watching you. Yeah. And like you're just like all the posts and stuff, like they're very, very much positive. And like I'm sure like a lot of people can relate to this as well, but I think that, you know, social media presence is a huge kind of like thing for other people because, you know, a lot of the times they don't get the opportunity to see you, you know, like this. And like being able to see that like, you know, on your page, like all this positivity and stuff, it also kind of like, I guess, helps other people build their own positivity and confidence and like how to kind of like, I guess, you know, present themselves. So I think it is definitely important.
Yeah, I feel like social media presence is kind of like a branding, not in like a business sense, but you need to curate what you want to put out in the world for your followers. If your page is about showing your training and showing your progress, by all means, that's what you're going to post about. If your page is about, you know, showing people how to do a specific trick, that's fine. That's your branding. I feel like my branding is kind of just like showcasing what I do as a performer as opposed to like my training. And there's nothing wrong with either or. That's just the path that I've decided to take with my social media branding. And I think it's important for people to start thinking about that if they want to get into professional performing, because as hard as it is, a lot of my gigs come from Instagram. Like a lot of my gigs come from people reaching out to me and following me and being like, we want you to perform at our next convention. And it's so important to be able to showcase all the things that you can do so that you are hireable.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of like, let's go back to, I guess, like your upbringing and like from, I guess you were born till like now. Can you give me like a rough, I guess, overview?
Okay, so I was born in the Philippines, so I'm full Filipino. Growing up, we didn't have much. My parents were able to just get us through school. So all of this extracurricular and passion I was able to pursue much later in life as an adult. Came to Australia when I was 13. Didn't do particularly well in school because I got, you know, hanging out with the wrong crowd. But yeah, I feel like I needed those years to hone in to what I really wanted to do as an adult. Actually graduating, I didn't even think about dancing. Like I would dabble in maybe competitive, oh my God, it's embarrassing, hip hop dancing. Like back in the day, everyone had like hip hop groups.
Yeah.
Did you do one of those too?
Well, like I went through like there's like a K-pop
Right,
phase.
yeah.
I think that's like my era.
Yeah. So we had those as well. So you would form like little groups, hip hop groups, and you would like perform at shows and stuff like that. But yeah, that was the extent of my dancing. So coming into pole, I had no fitness, like good fitness level. I had no flexibility. I had no dance background, nothing. But yeah, just learnt everything on the job, I guess. Learnt everything in pole.
So like I guess going back to like you said how, you know, like your childhood and like you were hanging out with the wrong crowd and like that I guess helped you to become who you are today. What was you, I guess, like how do you reflect on that, I guess, childhood up till like now?
Okay, so some people might know about this already about me because I always say it in intros for competitions, but my dad is a pastor, so he's a preacher. My family is really religious. And I feel like growing up and having those rebellious years kind of gave me a taste for doing something outside of what I'm allowed to do. And it's kind of honed me into this person that's always pushing the boundaries, and that's why pole dancing kind of came naturally to me, and then the reason why I would always gravitate towards the risque sort of stuff because just growing up in such a strict Christian family, I feel like it's kind of not in a bad sense that like, oh, I'm doing the exact opposite of what I'm meant to be doing. Like I'm rebelling like that. Like I'm 34. Like I don't need to rebel. Like I'm over that stage. But it's definitely helped me become a person to be more open and more free to do whatever I want. Yeah. So those formative years of rebelling against my parents actually helped me become who I am today.
That is so interesting. And I mean, like, I don't know if anyone else is thinking this, and I feel like this is like such a stereotypical thing to say, but I feel like when you're like young and you grew up in a very like conservative or like religious household, like you just rebel.
Yeah.
Well, like I think you either go the path of, you know, like
becoming a doctor.
Yeah. Or like you stay very conservative and you stay very, very religious, or like you literally go like onto like the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. I feel like it's a rite of passage to kind of go through those rebellious years, and then you find out whether or not you're going to keep to your parents' path, or you're just going to keep to your own path and the beat of your own drum. And I feel like I've gone in that pathway, and I'm so much happier and so much more developed as a person because of it.
Definitely. And I feel like, you know, the fact that you had like that background and you understand, you know, that sort of like conservative household, and then you also understand like the other end of, I guess the other end of the spectrum in a sense, is I guess it's so unique to you as well, and like unique to who you are. And I guess like, you know, that's what makes, you know, people interesting as well, because you have like a story.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, I've told this story before, but when I did pole theatre 2018, the one where I poured blood on myself.
Yeah.
So because the prop was so big, I needed my dad's ute to help transport it between studios and the actual venue. And my dad's like, what are you going to use the ute for? And I'm like, I have to transport this massive prop. And he's like, what's the prop? And I was like, oh, it's a bathtub. And he's like, what's this competition you're doing? I'm like, oh, it's just a pole dancing competition, but my theme is like a mermaid, like an angelic mermaid, and then like I swim around and like I go in like bubbles and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that's really cute, that's really cool. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you have to show us photos after. I'm like, yep.
Meanwhile, taking a bloodbath
to song that says Satan specific.
Oh my god.
Oh, sorry, Dad.
Sorry. Wait, do they know like your social media presence?
No, I don't even have my parents on Facebook.
I'm just surprised because I feel like, I don't know, maybe like your friends or like your relatives or something may have known you on social media, or like...
I did like earlier on, and I did a competition, Dance Filthy, at O2 nightclub back in the day. And I think she was there because she was like working the bar or something, which is like a church friend. And then she was telling everyone at church like, oh, you know, like she did this show and it was like really risque, and she took like her like bra off and she was just wearing this and da-da-da-da. And ever since then I've just like blocked everyone on social media, because it's like, you don't understand and you're making assumptions based on your prejudice. And two, like, you're also in that nightclub. Like, you also work in that same, like, vicinity. So you can't talk crap about me without talking crap about yourself as well. So, yeah, I just kept it separate.
And do you feel like, have they ever, like, questioned you?
No, because they know I, like, do it for a living, as in, like, I teach for a living. So to them, it's kind of like performing is secondary to teaching. So they think that teaching is my main job, which it kind of is. But, I kind of, like, downplay a lot of stuff. My mum would always say, this, like, really thick Filipino accent, oh, do you do some striptease, you know, when you do your burlesque or your pole dancing, do you do a bit of striptease? And I'll be like, no, mum, I only do like innocent kind of shows. I don't do that stuff, which is a shame. Like I'd want to be open in front of my parents, but at the same time, knowing my upbringing and the type of people they are, I think it's healthier for a relationship to omit some details, like, you know, such as dancing to a song called Satan and pouring blood on my tits. So,
I mean, that is like, that's pretty, I guess, intense for someone that would be like very religious.
Yeah, I think they would just have a heart attack and die. Yeah.
But, oh my God, yeah. I feel like that's also one of, I guess, kind of like an issue that people go through when they, you know, start pole dancing or like doing anything of that sort. I guess like things that are, I don't know, for some people it's like taboo or like maybe like against their religion and stuff like that. But like what would be like your good advice that you would give to those people that are like maybe just starting off? And
yeah, I think maybe like gauge how much of you want to show your family or show your ordinary life. I mean, I do see people that push past those boundaries and are so brave in showing what they are and kind of like going against the grain. And I really commend people like that, because I definitely don't have that braveness. Is that a word?
I think so, yes.
I don't have that braveness to kind of show my family that side of me. And so I really applaud people that can. But if you're in the same boat as me, I would say keep everything separate. There's no harm in compartmentalizing. What's my words today? Compartmentalizing your pole dancing life. And it's so much more accepted now and so much easier now. Like when you're in a studio, someone's like, oh, you know, is it okay if I record like next to you and stuff? And, you know, there are also instances where you don't want to be photographed doing what you do. And I feel like people are a bit more open to that, knowing that there are those that can't be open about their pole dancing. So know what it is for you, know what your boundaries are, and stick to that. You know, if you need to create a new social media account just for your pole dancing, which I know a lot of people do that. That's got nothing to do with your name, and it's just your pole dancing. But you need to sort of have an outlet for that side of you, because you can't repress that. It's something that you need to water and let grow. I feel like it's your right to be able to enjoy that, even if it's just within that circle. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's like such great advice. And I think, like, I know for a fact that a lot of people, I guess, struggle, you know, I guess, compartmentalizing. Compartmentalizing? I can't say that.
It's too big.
It really is. I'm just going to say, like, separate.
Yeah.
Separating, I guess, those two, I guess, lives or worlds in a sense, because, you know, it is still, like, I wouldn't say that, like, pole dancing is, like, 100%, like, you know, something that, you know, that anyone can do, like, without feeling judged or whatever. Because
definitely. Especially with the whole thing with, you know, those that can share it or feel like they can share it, they have to put it under this guise of pole fitness, or like they put all this hashtag like not a stripper. Like, don't do that. If you don't want people to see your pole dancing, just don't post it. You know, don't other yourself from what real pole dancing is, because that you're perpetuating the problem. So you're actually disrespecting the roots of pole dancing and the people that have come before you to, you know, to make it what it is today, especially the sex workers that have cultivated pole dancing as an art form. And so I feel like people that have to put that like box and like category of pole dancing, just don't post it. You know, it's your need to be accepted. It's like, why? Just pole dancing is sexy. You do sexy pole dancing. I see you in places. You do sexy pole dancing. Yeah. This is not pole fitness. Yeah. Pole fitness in places, please. But
that's true. It's like pole fitness in like teeny
Yeah.
undies.
And you're wearing like bikinis. That's not pole fitness. You're pole dancing.
Yeah.
That's what strippers do in strip clubs. So don't even fake it. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really hard, I guess, part of debate in a sense, because a lot of people still, have like the need to feel like they need to present themselves like a certain way, or they have like a, I don't know, corporate career or something.
Yeah.
And like, they're like, okay, if I say pole dancing, then people will think otherwise.
Yeah.
But if I say pole fitness, then it's like, oh, I'm just doing this as a form of fitness. So
Yeah. Well, I definitely have had experience in that. Obviously, I've grown from that. But earlier on when I was pole dancing and people would say, oh, what do you do? Like, what's that bruises from? And I would say, it's from aerials. Like, for some reason, aerials is a bit more acceptable than pole dancing. But, like, you're basically doing, you're not doing the same thing. It's like some of it's much, much harder. But, like to you, pole dancing has this, like, stigma around it. And so you're like, I don't want them to think a certain way. But that's not a reflection of pole dancing. That's a reflection of you and how you want to present yourself. And what your problem is with pole dancing. That's all internalized, and you're projecting that internalization to people that you have a conversation with. What if that person didn't have like a prejudiced view of pole dancing, and you're kind of just trying to tiptoe around telling them that you're a pole dancer because you think being an aerialist is much more acceptable? You need to have these kind of conversations with yourself first, and like know what it is and accept it in yourself before you can actually have a truthful and authentic conversation with anyone around you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like, I feel like, there's still, like, I wouldn't say a long way, but like we still have, I think it'll still take some time to, I guess, break that stigma. And especially like, well, in Australia, it's not as bad, but I feel like when you go overseas, it's a little worse.
Yeah, especially Asia. It's still very much taboo. I feel like competitions as well. Australia is a bit more embracing of the risque part of pole dancing and the true roots of pole dancing. And, I can't say the same for other countries. So where they kind of liken it more to pole art or like contemporary or like gymnastics or, so it's hard because we live in this bubble of like, yes, being sexy is so celebrated. Like, yes, we love like the stripper roots of pole dancing. Like, it's so easy to say that in Australia because we celebrate that form. Whereas overseas, they don't have that same privilege like we do.
No. And it also maybe because, like in some countries, like I don't know, maybe they might prefer like one style over the other as well. I'm not too sure, but like I know for a fact that in the US, like there's still a very kind of like heavy like, oh, you're a pole dancer, then you're a stripper kind of like, I guess like stigma. So I think it is really hard for, I guess like some people to like come out and be like, oh, I'm like, a pole dancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming back to what I said, I think it's got everything to do with how you feel about it, your relationship with pole dancing, and how you want to present that to the world. Yeah. So you don't get caught up in the stigma of it, but more so what you personally think about it and what it is, what it means for you as a pole dancer. And you can have that conversation with people. You don't have to other yourself and be like, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm going to be a pole fitness person. So if you're accepting of what it is, if you just tell them, look, I'm just doing it for fitness, but I do recognize that it is sexy. I do recognize that it's taboo, but personally, I just do it for fitness. And that's fine. You can totally have that conversation with people and people will understand you. You don't have to label yourself not a stripper in doing so. Yeah.
So like to you, what is pole dancing?
To me, pole dancing is a creative outlet. So it could have been anything, but I feel like pole dancing is so unique in a sense that it embraces your way of being. Like for me as a woman, it embodies everything that I can do as a woman, not just look. It's It's my strength, it's my grace, it's my flexibility, it's my creative outlet, it's my musicality, my relationship with people, my stage presence, everything that I want to convey and embody as a woman, I can do in pole dancing. I can do through pole dancing. I haven't really found anything quite like pole dancing that can embody all those aspects of me in the one art form. It's just so unique in that way.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think pole dancing is just, it's like everything. It's like, as you said, like dancing, it's like fitness, it's art, it's performing, like, and I feel like it's also good for your mental, like personally, I find it really good for your mental health as well.
Sure. Yeah. I always see it, especially in new students. They start off being so focused on what they look like. So they're always so conscious of, oh, what do I look like climbing out that pole? What do I look like wearing that outfit? And then it just morphs into, oh, I can do this. Like, or how does it feel when I do this? Or am I able to do that move after this move? And does it look smooth? Does it feel smooth? Does it feel strong? So it develops from what it looks like to what it feels like. And I think that's the power of pole dancing.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like with pole, like it's just not just like a physical challenge, it's like a mental challenge. And it's, as much as it's physical, it's really about getting over the thought of, okay, am I able to do that? Or like just like, I guess, stop doubting yourself. And then, once you get over that like mental, I guess, challenge, then it's like anything is possible to you,
Yeah, for sure. Like people come into the studio, like students come in and they've had the worst day, and then they come into pole dancing and actually forget about things for a whole hour. And I love that so much, because that doesn't stop in the classroom. It doesn't stop in the studio training during classes. You take that on as a pole dancer. You get lost in it. You get lost in creating choreography. You get lost in just freestyling. You get lost in creating content. And I feel like everyone needs that as an off time. Some people go for walks. Some people go for a drive. And I feel like dancing is that same outlet, and pole dancing is unique in a way that you do tricks and like death-defying stuff at the same time. And it just gets your mind off things, and it's so good for your mental health.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned that you were studying.
Yes.
As well. What are you studying?
So I'm doing an undergrad in exercise and sports science, and then I'm hoping to get into my physio masters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so another couple more years of studying. Then I can fix all the bodies that I break.
What made you decide on going into physio?
So I've been a remedial massage therapist for the last 4 years. And so I've worked in a physio clinic, so supporting physios with dancers. We mainly deal with ballet dancers and acrobats and circus performers. So to me, massage is great because you're able to create that really intimate relationship with your client and knowing where their body's at. But I feel like being a qualified physiotherapist would kind of open up a whole new world for me in terms of diagnosis and actually working with them to achieve specific goals and, help them perform to their optimized level. So I think as a pole dancer of 10 years, it was a natural progression for me to be interested in something like that. And it's definitely helped with my teaching. So having that anatomical knowledge and biomechanics and all that stuff definitely helps me instill some injury prevention, boring talks with my students. I always tell them, all right, boring talk time, everyone. Let's talk about the techniques that happen in Shamila. I'm going to be talking a lot, but you have to listen to every single one of them because they're all very, very important. I know it's boring, but you have to listen. Sorry, that's just the physio student in me.
I love that. Boring talk time.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I mean, they're very good.
What's the most important tip you give in, I guess, it would be really hard to like generalize like a tip, but
for students. I always, like, the thing that I always come back to all the time is engaging your muscles. I feel like people think they're Velcro. Like, they just place a hand or a leg on there and it's just going to stick to the pole. Like, it's not going to stick on the pole. You need to squeeze into the pole. So I feel like it's such a boring thing for instructors to be like, engage, engage. But I feel like that is the most important tip you can have for a student, so that they know to actually squeeze every living part of them. And, you know, at the same time, if you're squeezing those muscles, you're working them out. So you get more out of it.
So, like, would you say that, like, well, since you've, you know, been doing remedial massage and then you're obviously progressing into, like, becoming a physiotherapist, that you're doing, like, you enjoy, you know, talking to people, like, engaging with people, like, helping people?
I do, yeah. So within, obviously, like, my means, I try not to, like, say things that it's, like, above my skill level or, like, above my education. So just within what I already know, within my scope. But I definitely love speaking to students and helping them troubleshoot why they're not able to do a specific move, or, like, what they need to work on more in terms of, you know, cross training, which is so important for pole dancing. I think, like, the mistake that I did as a student was just doing pole dancing 5-6 days a week and not doing anything outside of that, you know. So whether it's going to the gym or doing sports or doing other kinds of stretching, yoga, all that stuff, it helps with maximizing your training time, I think. So if your body is just doing the same motions over and over and over again, your body's going to break, obviously. And when you're injured, you have to, my boring talk happening now, see? And when you're injured, you take so much time off pole, and then your mental health gets affected. And so I feel like me as a dancer now, I've had a plethora of injuries in the past, and the only thing that's actually helped me is cross training. So outside of pole, I take, you know, dance classes, I take handstand classes. So anything that would kind of decompress my body from doing pole dancing is helping me get stronger in the opposite kinds of movements. And that's probably my second biggest tip for students, is to cross train outside of pole dancing.
I think I need to take that tip myself.
Do some handstand classes.
That sounds really fun.
Handstand's good because, like, we do a lot of, like, overhead pulls, and then we do a lot of, like, pushing down this way and just in weird compromising positions, whereas handstands just get you in that right alignment, everything closed in, everything braced in, and then pushing the ground off. And I think it's so important for pole dancers to be able to have that different vocabulary in your body, as opposed to just the same over and over again. Give it a try.
I think I need to. And, like, what kind of, like, dancing do you do outside of pole?
Yeah, so I take some random classes. So I do, like, contemporary classes. I will do, like, a hip hop dance or a jazz dance or, like, a theater jazz dance. So anything really that it's out of my comfort zone that doesn't require heels, of course. So something completely opposite. But that's just me. Some people do things or take dances outside of classes that are similar and will complement their dancing. You know, so just whatever your body feels at that moment.
And do you feel like you take those kind of, like, learnings and then implement into pole as well?
Definitely. So in terms of, like, technique, like weight distribution in your feet, being able to turn, spotting, marking. I also take a lot of tips from the teachers that I learn from as an instructor myself. You know, I feel like it's important to grow as an instructor, and being able to deal with the different types of students you have by learning different skills on how people explain things from other teachers as well. It's so important to also take pole dancing lessons from other teachers, even if you're an established pole dancer yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think because I've seen you like take Coco's classes. Coco is a pole dancer here in Sydney. She's the owner of Love Pole Studio.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen you take her classes,
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I love that you actually invest into yourself, because I think, like, in life, in like anything you do, I think the most important thing is to like invest in yourself rather than investing into like material items or something.
For sure. And like also, you know, a lot of those times it's not just for myself, it's also for my students, it's also for, you know, the type of pole teacher you want to be. So I think it's important that students are seeing that their instructors are broadening their skills and upskilling and training and maintaining their training.